So there we have it. Internet civics as defined by three warped models. There are so-called objective journalism, partisan liberals, and hyper-partisan conservatives. There also are old-school liberals, but they're few in number and they don't have the knowledge or courage to challenge mainstream corruption. They spend their time complaining about wokeism without mentioning its financial backers, and they're basically useless. The objectivity model beelined from corporate media onto the net, and it's filled with rhetorical scams in which everything is ambiguous and nothing makes sense. All three feature the emotional levers and rhetorical tricks found in mainstream media. It's absolutely imperative to understand the whole set. Luckily, they're explained in detail with descriptions and examples in the Big Book of Propaganda, now on Amazon. All three models tell only half the story, but the partisans distort the public square with anger and hatred. Of course, you expect this from conservatives given Confederate history. But it's sad and shocking to see liberals sucked into the corporate hate machine. Most importantly, both are controlled by the same financial interests. They only seem distinct because they produce narratives for different groups. But the policy options they promote are two sides of the same elite coin. That brings us to the personnel. They're all scam artists. Some have been brainwashed by college or mass culture or both, and they provide the service free of charge. Many are paid spokesmen of the corporate machine, but again, they all serve the same elite interests. Their number one job is remaking reality with fiction. One example is Dan Ariely, a Duke University professor. His book Mischief offers a long list of explanations for public delusions. They range from stress to ostracism, villain blaming, overconfidence, lost community, confirmation bias, conspiracy theories, sleep paralysis, whatever that is, patternicity, whatever that is, and many more. It's important to repeat, all of this is from an elite university professor. Nowhere does he mention the real cause. For those just joining us, that would be the corporate media lying through their teeth 24/7 and generating delusional memes by the bucketful from every think tank, publishing house, and broadcast studio in the roster. The book does an excellent job of altering reality, so of course it was produced in hardcover. When it was pitched, publishers probably lined up around the block waving juicy contracts. This is typical of corporate spokesmen, but the gang work even harder to conceal the political parties. So it's especially important to look at them objectively. Biden has failed on immigration, being under the control of big business and pretending to heed leftist crazies duped by global finance. For years, Republicans have talked about securing the borders. Of course, they didn't when they had the chance, and they just defeated a good bill. This is a wedge issue for them and another bait and switch scheme on the order of supply side policy. As mentioned, open borders has been fixed policy in both parties since the 80s when global interests infiltrated our institutions. Now they're both stalling for all they're worth. The only way forward is for the voters to join hands on the issue and demand immigration policy that protects working class jobs and wages. On foreign policy, it's probably a wash. Biden has allowed American money to finance the terror states, but he supports Ukraine and Israel, which is a good thing. Republicans aren't influenced by the leftist model of oppressor and oppressed, so they might be better against Iran, Hamas, and the rest. On the other hand, Trump is a bit too cozy with the dictatorships in Beijing, Moscow, and Riyadh. He also plans to dismantle NATO, which would be a disaster. He would certainly start up supply side policy again, which would cause another fiscal collapse. He's also a threat to government by and for the peoples. His election could mean the end of American democracy as we know it. Both parties have jacked up the debt, although they use different rationalizations. Democrats pass social and infrastructure spending without the taxes to pay for it. Republicans cut taxes on the rich and increase military spending in the crackpot, supply side fantasy that this will balance the budget. You have to wonder where conservative voters were during fourth grade arithmetic. The project serves large financial interests who finance the debt and collect interest payments on the loan. This is a huge waste of resources, which could otherwise be used for civic projects. The fix, again, is for Democrats and Republicans to get together and to demand taxes on corporations to pay down the debt. Basically, we're given two deeply flawed policy choices. They're designed by global finance and are two sides of the same coin. Each is accepted by partisans on either side. They're jacked up on hatred, ignorant of the facts, under the influence of scam artists, and too blinded with anger to understand rational policy. The way forward is to reach out to both sides to create a practical bipartisan agenda. That'll mean finding common ground, which is not as difficult as you might think. Our disagreements are mostly with people who've been conned by the elite propaganda. For example, the left support wokeism being duped by corporate spokesmen in the media and university. They want open borders at the command of business interests hungry for cheap labor. The right supports supply-side policy. That includes tax cuts for the rich, increased military spending, and every other giveaway to global finance. They also see the commie menace in every nook and cranny. Of course, all of this is nonsense. It's also designed by the same financial interests that produce CNN. But there's plenty that we can agree on. Old school liberals would reform the Democratic Party in two shakes, reverse globalism, get rid of wokeism, and force the party to represent the working class. And we're already winning on the abortion issue. Biden has endorsed collective bargaining, and he's passed amazing legislation, restarting American manufacturing and expanding clean energy. That would supercharge other sectors of the economy as well as weaken the petro-states. The party has to be dragged kicking and screaming into securing the border and paying down the debt, yet both parties would get behind all of this if they weren't being conned by the Daily Wire and MSNBC.